Hello again, and welcome to another Poetry at Tech reading, one I've been looking forward to. Alice Friman's new book is Vinculum, is that how you pronounce it? Vinculum, from Louisiana State University Press. This is for sale outside. Alice is poet in residence at Georgia College and State University in Milledgeville. She's not a poet in residence. Sounds like it's a cool thing, but they don't give you an apartment, right? You don't get like a free place to live or free rent or anything like that. It's another term for faculty now, or professor. She's won many prizes, including a Pushcart Prize. If I had to define her poetry, I'd say she's a lyric poet. There's a great compression and great music in her poem. I picked one little phrase, 4 words, that struck me as maybe indicative of how she uses language. The sea jacked crazy. Jacked is a verb there, right? The sea jacked crazy. You'll hear more things like that in her poems. Please welcome first Alice Friman.
Seeing it through. Presto, the magician drops his handkerchief, and amazingly, I'm looking down 70 years. Down as from the top of a winding stair, vertigoing to the bottom, where the child struggles to mount, crawling on her knees that first step. And I want to say, wait, I'll come down, carry you up, for I need you here, now that the banister is nearing its finial, and I can see the rituals of the sky speeding up through the almost reachable skylight. Honey hair and the sunsuit mother made from a scrap. Come. If I hold you high, you can touch the glass. Let the last contact be a baby's hand. Why not? All things come around, replete with rage and rattle. Because I think getting older is...
Get this out of your face. Down a little bit. I think that'll be better.
Well, it pisses me off. Okay? It pisses me off. One thing about getting older is that you have a past, a long, raunchy, sweet past. So there's lots to write about, you know. This poem is about my first husband. And as you can tell from the funny way I talk, I'm from New York City. And we were both New York City kids. And we were married for 20 years, had 3 kids, and things sort of fell apart, and then we got a divorce and he died. When we got married, we moved into an apartment in Brooklyn called the Dakota. It wasn't the same place where John Lennon was shot, but it was called the Dakota. This is called Visiting the Territories. Come, brush the clay from what's left of your good suit and lie down here with me. In the splinters of what you are, in the marrow's residue, surely there are traces of your bride. Don't be afraid. Make believe I'm asking you to dance. You always loved to dance. Show 'em how it's done in Brooklyn, you'd say, whirling me out to the ends of your fingers, pulling me back. Now I'm pulling you back. Not to redraw the lines or rummage in the rag bag of our forever after, but because I need you. Come, our first apartment, a high-rise called the Dakota, remember? A big joke for 2 New York City big shots like us who couldn't find the Dakotas on a map if we had to. Birdland, that we knew. Basie, Embers East, Oscar Peterson, and Dinah undressing the blues in pink. dizzy, healing the world with his horn, holding the whole damn ball in his cheeks? Who'd not reconvene his dust to remember that? Come, apartment 4C, 5 and 10 cent store dishes, and all we own, a mattress, Scrabble, and a window fan, rattling its dark inklings. Maybe if you lay down next to me the artless bones, I could find the true history of the Dakotas before the broken treaties, the Badlands, and what happened next. Well, I was a child of the Depression. Not this one, but the real one. In the old days, I don't know if anyone does this anymore, but Mother used to change the furnishings of the house for the fall and then for the spring. So she would roll up the rug in the spring and put slip covers on the sofa. You know, I see some people nodding their head that they remember that. So this one is called Depression Glass. It must have been October, right after the annual hanging of the winter drapes, and the ceremonial unrolling of the rug from its summer sleep behind the sofa. Gone were the slipcovers, leaving the upholstery stripped down to warm arms again, and the little living room transformed into a mother hug of all she labored for, the luxury of bastion and snug, the thick stability of thick pile purchased with how many on her knees hours of scour and rag, the whir of the sewing machine at night, and all those stretched nickels. My sister would say this never happened, or if it did, it wasn't this way, or if it was, I never cried, or if I did, how could I, so young, know what was to cry about? A room like that, in the snow-white haven of the dwarf's house, and I, no more than 4, rowing a cardboard box across the rug, its flowered sea lapping at my hands that were my oars. When suddenly, there was my father, dancing to the radio or some crazy song of his own making, flapping his arms and yawping like a great enchanted bird gull of happiness, having nothing to do with me or her. And I saw, as through the glass layers of the sea, what he'd been before I came in my little boat, grinding its vast engines of responsibility, dragging him under, changing him into someone other than the drowned beloved I'd be trying to make it up to all my life. Well, I spent 42 years in Indiana. And Indiana used to be forest. And I was spending time in southern Indiana, where the hills are sort of rolling and very green, during a summer where we had a lot of rain. So everything became green. And the name of this poem is Apollo Comes to Floyd's Knobs, Indiana. And all you have to remember about this is that Apollo, remember, is the god of reason and light. And the tree sacred to Apollo is the laurel tree. Okay? The laurel tree. Everywhere is green. Forest green, moss, jungle, viridian. All Indiana down to the Ohio, pushing against fences, swelling with juice, a fat lady taking up 2 seats on the airplane. We used to be forest here, before the urge for acreage and the axe, pickled beets, and church on Sunday. Forest before there was a Sunday. Even before God took off for Italy to have his portrait painted. And this year, despite what you've read in the checkout line, the news isn't who diddled whom sideways, but that we're being rained on, flooded, snaked out. Green is in. When lilacs last in the dooryard bloomed, mister, they're eating up the house. I tell you, Papa's coming home. He's fed up writing prescriptions and orders for the medium indifferent. He's bought himself a bank of clouds, some killer luggage, and a watering can. And no kicking the tires or shivering prayer in a booth is going to stop him. Before you know it, sycamores will be sawing through your floorboards. A cedar, big as a myth, will rise in your toilet. And more white pine, Scotch pine, loblolly than you can count will crash out of your closets demanding your furniture back. With no more TVs, PCs, plug-ins for your little mouse, who knows what else? You lose your job, your son becomes an English major, and your wife of 32 years decides to throw away all her clothes and frisk in a laurel tree, naked, insisting she'll not come down until you learn Greek and climb up, stripped, hot and hard again with love, singing Oreya, Oreya, beautiful, beautiful. You're kidding, you say. My wife? Secretary of the Bridge Club? Flashing her puckered thighs and beckoning like the Lorelei, bewitched in varicose and droop? Mister, just climb up. Take your belly and bald head and climb, if only because she is ridiculous. An old hen playing chickie on a balcony, asking only that you rise like the cypress from your knees and clutch her to you in all her bravery and redeeming foolishness. Cradle her face the way you would a crystal cup you could drink from forever, then hurl yourself for once into your heart's voice. The leaves around your head will whisper what you need to say. Well, we've spent quite a bit of time trekking around Europe, and the last time we went from one concentration camp to another, and we ended up in Birkenau. Birkenau, doesn't have the sign over the gate that says "Work will make you free." Birkenau was where you went and you died right away. So this is about that. Birkenau means the place of birches. They love their trees. This is called a waiting room. To speak of crucial in a life of the merely interesting, to have a yen for it, a calling, you might say, is to be perpetually involved in the act of naming. And yet, when I went to the one place where crucial happened, not once, but over and over again, I gagged on my own silence. There is ash at Birkenau, under your every step. It hisses in the long, uncut grasses growing out of its mouth. Nothing but this sibilance is left, this ocean of wind-tortured tongues, the air not big enough to hold it. Never mind 60 years of museums and memorials, vigils and eternal lights. Never mind that everything to be said has been said. I needed to translate The singed grass demanded it. Birkenau means place of birches, the grove in the meadow next to which Crematorium 4 was built and fired up to run 24 hours a day, so busy gassing and burning there'd be a backup waiting to go in. Imagine the humiliations of the flesh, fumbling to cover up in that waiting room of white trees, those totems of eyes. Imagine your mother, her sparse patch, the unopened pink purse that is your daughter. Then now, with the wind up and the whipping grasses wild at your knees, before the dogs come, hurry, write the choke of terror. Just two more. The name of this book is Vinculum, and vinculum means a connection. And the story behind this next poem, which is Vinculum, is that my son came to visit. And suddenly we were sitting across from each other in the living room, and he's 52 now. And he was staring at me, and I was staring back. And it was as if we were looking through each other, and it was very uncomfortable. And I couldn't pull my eyes away. Vinculum for Richard. Do not look at me again like that. Between us is too stripped down to the bare wire of what we were. The look, umbilical. That cord I thought discarded in some hospital bin 50 years ago come November. How strange to find it once more between us, still beating, and so palpable we could cross over and enter into each other again, seeing our old selves through new first eyes. Plucked from a drum roll of autumn, that one was ours. Autumn of my 23rd year. Autumn of your final fattening, taking up all the room, worrying the thinning walls. The rope that seethed from me to you and back again, our two-way street. And you, little fish, hanging on past your lease in a time of narrowing dark, which you can't possibly remember, but do. And it comes to me that look must be what love is, which is why we'll not speak of it, nor hunt it down in each other's eyes again. For you're too worldly to admit, without wincing, what happened, happened. And I, too conscious of my failed attempts to fire into language what's beyond words, could not bear it. Which leaves me holding the bag once more of foolish thoughts. I know, the universe has neither edge, nor center, nor crown. But I want to think that past Andromeda, and out beyond a million swirling disks of unnamed stars, that chord we knew, that ghost of an I-beam floating between us, arcs in space, lit up like the George Washington Bridge, pulsing with traffic, even after both stanchions are gone. And one last poem, which I try not to read. I only read it among people who don't know me. There's a word in here you might not know. It's called petechiae. If you would be so honest as to raise your hand. If you have, any of you have these little teeny tiny red freckles on your body? Come, come. Those are called petechiae. This is called imitating nature. Let us shed, and then to bed. I'll read that again. I want to make sure you get it. Imitating nature. Let us shed, and then to bed. Now that we've walked the woods in November's fading light, the day's dream sliding down without a cloud for cover, the trees stripped to the plain girls they are, blemished and vulnerable, the world having had enough of gorgeousness. Let me introduce my parts. These are my purities. The right one, Rosebud. The one over my heart, the Egyptian. For unlike her sister, she is heavy-veined and serious, recalling how in ancient Thebes the rivers of the breast were painted blue. That's true. They say even in the dark, Antony could trace them to their source. And when in Rome, plotting or reaching for a grape, he was lost, drowned in the fountain of those tributaries. And here is my belly, this talcumed absence of muscle, this stretch of sky soft as a buttoned cushion. Today her name shall be Heaven. Don't laugh. A woman's prerogative. Evening star, morning star, Venus changes names by the hour, and trees rename themselves with each new dress. Why not the body? Her name is Heaven. And see, scattered across like lucky stars, 7 dancing petechiae, stigmata of ruby slippers. The Pleiades, the 7 daughters of Atlas, my corundums, my red jewels. This one I call Justice. That one, Flare. And my favorite, capital A, for Alpha, for Apple, for Alice, for Akbar the Great, ruler of the ruby throne. And here, a childhood freckle, Lioness, because she prowls at night on the other side of the scar that runs the length of me like a junkyard fence. And there, where you've tucked your hand, that's no petechiae, no ruby among rubies. That's Folly, the little lady herself, still sashaying onto the dance floor each time the band strikes up, carrying nothing but a parasol and a little red purse.
Ever was sundown, mosquitoes tuning up, a gilt of fireflies slathering the Adirondack chairs. My knees scrape eggshell, beflowered with dead-headed marigolds, and the tufts of hair billow up from the dirt to my face. Thank you, everybody.
Didn't he do something like this to David? Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. And afterwards, I'll tell you how we take care of squirrels in the garden here in Georgia. Travis, Denton, Ginger Murchison, Kodak, all this never would happen without them. We're grateful for the support of our department, our dean, Jackie Royster. We have one more reading this year, and it's going to be a terrific one, too. David Bottoms, who's the Poet Laureate of Georgia, and Kwame Dawes, coming from South Carolina. That's April 4th, right, Pete? 5th. April 5th. Thank you very much.